Hello, everyone. In today's session, we are going to look at CAP plugins. So CAP plugins were introduced about a year ago. And what is a CAP plugin? So it is an extension that enhances the capabilities of the CAP framework. So as you all know, CAP framework reduces the amount of boilerplate code that you would run to create business enterprise applications. But there are some functionalities within the enterprise applications that doesn't necessarily come under the umbrella of the CAP framework. So in order to add functionality for those kind of features, what the developers at SAP have done is they've created this concept of a CAP plugin that you can readily plug into your application. So it's more like a plug and play kind of a thing. So if you're interested in a certain feature, then you can simply plug that feature into your CAP framework and immediately get access to that functionality. Now, this facilitates seamless integration not only with the SAP solutions, but also with the third-party services and other APIs as well. And you will see a lot of CAP plugins that are going to be introduced in the near future, and they will more than likely interface with the BTP services that are already available, or with other services, other third-party services as well. Now, not only does SAP provide support for it, but SAP also has given the community, the CAP community, which is a vibrant community, the means to create their own plugin as well. And SAP also curates the various plugins that are available from the community as well. Now, what this also allows us to do is it allows us to reuse these plugins across the different CAP projects as well. So if you have a certain functionality within your enterprise that you need to use in various other CAP projects, then you can, if you want, you can design it as a CAP plugin and then use it across various CAP projects. Now, one of the advantages of doing it that way is if you have to make changes to it, you only have to make changes to the CAP plugin. But if you had to copy the code over to all the various other CAP applications, then you would have to make changes in everywhere. So CAP plugin, there are various examples of CAP plugins at this moment. So if you go to the documentation, you will see various CAP plugins that are available right here. So if you go to CAP documentation and search for CAP plugins, you can see the various CAP plugins that are available. You've probably used the OData V2 adapter quite a bit, but there are also audit logging attachments. And there's also a CAP plugin for the large language model as well. So if you're going to be building large language model applications, then you can make use of this LLM plugin as well. Now, these plugins are implemented using the CDS plugin technique, and like I mentioned before, it's more like a plug and play thing, so you don't have to do too much configuration. So here you can see there's an example like this. So you install that plugin, then you add some annotations to your models, and then you start running it, right? So as simple as this, and this will automatically give you the features of this audit logging. Okay, so let's, what all can the CAP plugin do, right? Obviously, the CAP plugin can give you some reusable custom logic. So custom logic you can add as part of the CAP plugin. Now, in addition to that, you can also add configuration of your projects. So you can change the configuration of your project. Now you can also influence the UI. So we will look at the attachment plugin where we can influence the UI by adding a new section to the object page. Now you can also modify the CDS build. So in your so I already mentioned that you're going to be using the CDS plugin technique. So in your CDS plugin technique, you can add some code that will allow you to customize the build process as well. So there's quite a bit of stuff that the CAP plugin can do. So let's look at some of the examples and how you can build one as well. So the OData V2 adapter, this is probably the most commonly used CAP plugin. So you know that the CAP framework supports the OData V4 protocol version. Now, if you do want support for OData V2 for any number of reasons, then we have this plugin, and what it does is whenever whenever you send a request, which is OData v2 in nature, it intercepts that request and then modifies that request to a OData v4 request and sends it to the CAP framework. And then the CAP framework, as it supports the OData v4, it's able to handle that OData v4 request, and then the response that comes from the CAP framework, the OData v2 adapter again intercepts that and converts that into a OData v2 response and sends it back to the requesting entity. So this is an adapter that you've probably already used. So let's quickly see that in action. So here what I have is a very simple CAP application. So here you can see in my DB folder, I have schema.cds, just a very simple entity, just to showcase how you can do this, right? So I have the suppliers entity, and in my CDS file, all I'm doing is I'm going to expose that entity as an OData service. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the next version. So if I go to git checkout 2 underscore. So this is my OData v2 support. So here in this thing, what I have done is I have installed this plugin adapter. Now, if you see the word cap-js, so this means that this is from SAP, and you have full support for this plugin. Now, this obviously comes from the community. So this is the OData v2 adapter coming from the cap.js community. But you will see a lot of the naming convention where it is just cap-js. So in that case, you can be rest assured that it is coming from SAP with full support. Okay, so once you install this dependency, now in order to have support for OData v2, all you have to do is add these 3 lines of code in your package.json file. And basically it's saying which path for v2. So now if I run this CDS watch, so now I have support. Let me do an npm I. So now I have support for OData v2 as well. So I'm going to do CDS watch, and you will see that if I go into this localhost 4004, you see I have support for OData v2. So if I click on OData, let's look at the metadata itself. So you can see I have support for OData v2. This is my path right here, and of course I can also go to the suppliers, and I have the OData v2 coming up. So because my CSV file has just 2 entries in it, and you can see that I can see the data. Okay, so this is as far as the OData v2 adapter, and you've probably already seen this as well. So let's look at the attachments plugin, and this is, so I'm just going to show you a couple of plugins. So the attachments plugin, and I'm pretty sure this is something that you can readily use in your application as well, because most applications you have the requirement to add some application, to add some maybe a PDF file to your entity or so. So you can use the attachments plugin readily in your application. So for this, I'm going to check out the next branch, which is 3 underscore attachments. Okay, so right now I'm on the 3 underscore attachments, and if I look at my package.json file, what I have done is I have added this attachment plugin right here. So you can see this is from cap-js. So this is from SAP. So let me also go ahead and run npm I. So now I have the attachments plugin installed in my application. Now, how do I use this attachments plugin? So what I can do is I can search for this in I can search for this in the Google Chrome, and this will show me how to use this attachments plugin. So here I go to the cap.js attachments, and you can see that it's showing that you add the attachments, so which I've already done. And once you add the attachments, then in your data model, you can add this attachments. So whichever entity you need support for attachments, you can add this 1 line of code, and that will give you support for attachments. So here in my application right here, I go into my schema.cds. So this is my data model. So I'm bringing in this 1 line. So I have the attachments right here. And then what I want to do is I want to add attachments for the supplier. So I have a one-to-many relationship. So maybe I have the ratings and all these documents related to the suppliers that I need to support. So I'm adding this attachments, this just this 1 line of code. And this gives me support for the attachments. Now, what I I can do though, I mean, this attachments, I can name it anything I want, but then you just say composition of many attachments. Now, if I run CDS watch, what it's going to do is it's going to do all of the stuff behind the scenes, and it's going to give you support for attachments. So here in my application right here, oh, I also did one thing. I also created a UI part of it, and this is just going through the template wizard, right? So in this branch, I had just said open template wizard, and I just went through the just the basic stuff of creating a list report object page. So I didn't do anything else, just a very simple basic list report object page. I just went through this UI. Where is my list report? So I said list report, and then I also went and said this is using a local cap project. And I selected the plugins. It automatically selects the OData service, say next, suppliers, and that's it. And then I just said finish, say next, and then you give the project name and stuff like that, and I say finish. But that's all I've done. So with this, if I go now to my application itself, because I've added the attachments plugin, you will see that it has given me all the support for even the UI part of it, right? So here, if I go into my web app, you can see that I can say go. So this first page is showing the two entries that I have for the suppliers. But once I click on it, you can see that this new section is added automatically for me. So I didn't have to do anything to have this UI show up. So if I go into the edit mode, I can even upload files. So if I have like a PDF file or whatever file I have, I can go ahead and upload this file. So I can go ahead and upload a file, and I can save it. So this file gets saved onto my onto this customer supplier's entity. So I can have any number of attachments. So it's a one-to-many relationship. So I can keep uploading as well, and I can save it. Okay, now you can do one step further. Let's say you don't want to save it in the, let's say I don't want to save it in the local HDI container, but I want to save these attachments in an object store, maybe in AWS S3 bucket. So that's where I want to store my attachments. You can do that as well. So to do that, what you would have to do is you have the object store service. So this is a service in the SAP BTP. So you can make use of this. So here you can see that how these plugins also interact with the services from SAP BTP in a very seamless manner. So here what I've done is I have the object store. So I can create a instance of this object store. And as I create the instance of the object store, I'm going to select the S3. So this is going to store it in an S3 behind the scenes for me. All I have to do is give a name, and I've already created one, so I'm not going to create another one. And in addition to that, what I want to do is before I save the attachments to the object store, I also want to do some kind of scanning as well. So here you have the malware scanning service. So once again, you see the how much all of the hard work is taken away from you, and everything is done automatically for me. So the plan that I want to use is the CLA MAV. Give a name, go ahead and create it, and I've already created, so I don't have to do it again. So now all I have to do here is I just need to run it in a hybrid mode because I'm just going to run it locally, right? So I'm going to attach to these two services that I've created. So you can see that I've already created these services. So you can see I have the services, the malware and the OBJ store. I've already created it. So I'm just going to attach to these two services that I already have. So I have the command here. So you can CDS bind to this object store. So now my applications, even though I'm going to run it locally, I'm going to bind it. Okay, so I need to do a CF login. Let me go ahead and do the CF login and get back to you. Okay, my CF login is complete. So here I can go ahead and bind it to the object store. And now I can bind it also to the malware service as well. So I've bound my application to both the malware and the OBJ store. So now that I have it, I can run this with the debug plugins. I need to run it in a hybrid mode. So I'm going to do CDS watch dash dash profile hybrid. And now what I can do is when I do run this application, this is going to store the stuff in the AWS S3 bucket, and it's also going to scan it before it gets added. So here, if I go in here and you can go into the edit mode, I can go ahead and upload the file. I can go ahead and upload any file that I want. You can see that it's scanning. And once it scans, I can save it, and it will make sure that it's a clean file as well. So I can go ahead and save it. So this will be in the clean state right now. Okay, so this is how you can do it. And obviously, I have also included some commands to make sure that you can download the file as well from the AWS S3 bucket. So for this, you would need to install the AWS CLI. So install it on your local machine. Then this ls command is going to go ahead and list all the files in your AWS bucket. Now, in order to do all these commands, you also need access to the key. So here you have the key. So when you do the AWS configure, it'll ask you for some keys. So here you can get all the keys from the object store key, and you can put all the values in here, and you will be connected, and you can see all the files there. And you can download the files to make sure that it is saved in the AWS bucket. Okay, so this is the attachment plugin. I just wanted to show you how easy it is in order for you to have this attachment feature without having to do too much work. It's just plug and play kind of functionality right here. Now, if I go back to my CAP plugins, so we have the attachment plugins right here. You can see the documentation right here. There's also another plugin very similar to this called the SAP Document Management Service. So if you want to use a CMIS supported protocol management service, then you can use this SAP Document Management Service as well. So it's very similar way of doing this. Again, you will change the data model, and you can add attachments and say composition of many attachments. So very similar, these two plugins can behave. Okay, so now what I can do is I can go to another plugin just to show you how easy it is. So if I go back to my code right here, so let me go ahead and stop it, and I will go to git checkout 5 underscore. So I'm going to show you how this change tracking works. Now, change tracking, let's say you have, let me go back to my schema.cds file. Let's say in my entity, I have this field, and this field is, let's say, very important. It's like some contract field or so, some values for the contracts, and you want to know the old value, the new value, who changed it, all of that good stuff that you want to keep track of. So instead of writing custom logic code for all of that, which may take a lot of time, what you can do is you can readily use the change tracking. Again, this is a cap-js, which means it comes from SAP. You go ahead and install it. So you just say npm I, and then you install this change tracking. And again, you can, how do I use this? You just go and Google this, and this is going to show you how to use this change tracking. So you can go here, you can see that all you have to do is install this change tracking. And then once you install the change tracking, then you just need to annotate the CDS file. And that's what we are going to do here as well. So in my branch 5, what I've done is I've gone ahead and installed this change tracking. And then I go into my CDS file, and I simply annotate the supplier's entity, and I say, hey, I'm interested in this particular field, and I say add change log. So I add this annotation right here. So from now on, if I go ahead and run this application, then I'm going to have a change log for this particular entity right here. So if I go into my application right here, let me go ahead and So in my application right here, so I hit go. You see these two entries right here. I go in here. You can see change and history is already showing up. I can right now I have not made any changes, so there's nothing to show up here. So here, let me go ahead and make some changes here. I will change it to old, and you will see that it will go ahead and add it to this change history as well. So you can see this is I'm running it locally. There's no logged in user, so that's why it says anonymous. Otherwise, it keeps track of which user changed it, when it was changed. It was an update. It was created on this time. The new value is this. The old value was this. So it keeps track of all of that information. So this is something that you can readily use in your application as well. So there are quite a few plugins, and you will and SAP is going to have much more plugins with much more integration with the SAP BTP services. Again, you as within the community can create your own plugins as well, or even within your project, if you have the same functionality that is going to be used in multiple applications, then you can create your own plugin as well. Creating a plugin is fairly straightforward. So there is a Devtoberfest, there was a YouTube video from one of the SAP developers, so I'm just going to verbatim show what he did. So I'm going to check out branch 4, and this is where I'm going to create the plugin. So here is where I'm going to create the plugin. In order to create the plugin, I've added it all in the commands.txt file, so you can simply follow this. What we want to do is we want to go ahead and create a npm package, npm project. So you already know this command right here, npm init-y. So up to this, you probably already know. You give a name for your plugin, but this is a -w. So the -y is going to take the default values, right? It's going to answer all of the questions with the default values. But if you didn't put -y, then you would have to answer all of the questions. -w is also going to add to your package.json file. It's going to add this section right here, workspaces. Now, what this is going to do is when you do an npm I, it's going to look in this folder to do the install. So I've already run this command. And now if I do npm I and then my plugin. So if I run my plugin, obviously my plugin is not there in the npm repository, but it's what it's going to do is it's going to look into this my plugin folder, and that's because that -w flag added this into my package.json file. So now when I install it, it's able to go find this plugin, and it's going to go ahead and install it. This plugin is going to be empty because when you run this command, right here, all it's going to do is it's going to create a package.json file with the default values. So this is just a package.json file with the default values. So when you do the npm I my plugin, this is going to install just this empty package. In order to add functionality to it, what you need to do is you need to go ahead and create this cds-plugin.js file. So in this cds-plugin.js file, anyways, so here in my cds-plugin.js file, let me go ahead and comment these lines of code for now. So here I'm going to comment these lines of code. Maybe this one also. Okay, so all I'm doing is a console.log. So if I run my my application at this moment, so I can use the debug command to run it. So here I'm going to run it using my debug command, and it should pick up this JS file, and it should say that it is my plugin is loaded. Now this my plugin is loaded is run right when the app starts, and that's not what I want to do. Like in my code, what I want to do is I want to wait until all the services are loaded, and then I want to do some stuff. In my case, what I want to do is I just want to do an after handler. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the CDS once, which gets fired once, as the name suggests, and I'm going to listen for this event right here. And after everything is served, then I want to go ahead and do this. And basically what I'm going to do is based on this annotation, I'm going to do an after handler and add these 3 thumbs up to the field name. So the code itself is, you can have a look at the code, but basically this is pretty much a verbatim copy of the Devtoberfest YouTube video from one of the SAP developers right there. Okay, so Yeah, so with this, what you can do is if I run this application, I don't know if is this application being run? Yes, it is being run. You will see that with the name, even though I don't have these three thumbs up at the very end, when I do run this thing, it will give me name with the three thumbs up. Now, what I can do is, since it's looking for this plugin, this annotation right here, I can go ahead in my schema.cds. I can add this plugin to the contact as well. So here I'm adding this annotation add my plugin also to this contact. So now the contact will also have those three thumbs up. So here if I go into my application right here, so my contact also has three thumbs up. Now again, so in this case we are adding three thumbs up, but this is not what you would be doing more than likely. You may have some custom logic built into like the after handler for any of these fields. So you can use this as some kind of a template, and then here in this after handler, you can change it to modify based on your requirements. So that's how you would go ahead and create a plugin. But if you're not interested in creating a plugin, if you just want to reuse some of the plugins already created, then it's fairly straightforward. All you have to do is install it and look into the documentation, add a few annotations, and you are good to go. Okay, thanks. Bye.